Ready? No. Hello, and welcome to the second half of tonight's Black Box Artist Talks for Caribbean Linked 6. Thank you again to our sponsors, our partnering organizations, all of the audience watching us from home, and all of the audience here at Atelier 89 in Aruba. Our next artist is Belisa Trupe. She's from Guadeloupe, and she graduated from the Université Michel de Montaigne in Bordeaux. Her work has been widely exhibited in shows locally and internationally, including the Pool Art Fair and the Banjul Station in Cameroon. Belisa questions the relationship between the human body and plants through delicate drawings and mixed media works. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Belisa.
Yes. Hello, hi everyone. I'm so glad to be here in Caribbean Linked in at Atelier 89. And thank you. Organs, roots remind me of the mimicry of the interiority of human body of plants and of plants. And the question I ask myself at this moment is, what is the relationship with nature? What is the relationship with nature? News pictures. Yes. These spaces are created of the occasion of a call of projects, one live, one more day by the H Gallery Paris. The complaint sentence this series is a quite special for me. By observing the traditional garment of my parents, and I saw embroidery very similar to the technique of embroiderers of Vieux-Fort in Guadeloupe. The embroiderers of Vieux-Fort are embroiderers who have embroidery atelier in the town of Vieux-Fort. They knew how to keep and pass on this know-how. They have an open walkway of doing the embroidery, heavy land to embroider. Together by a structure of in the background of plaster and other materials. The viscerality of the tongue is tangible through the sensuality and of the burgundy color satin. The crushed red rose cling on the satin via saw threads, and a thread of life take place. The lane thread echoes one of my memories. Organ is living connection. Long is a tongue of rose. Long is a tongue of life. This work was working in working progress during virtual version of Caribbean Linked 6. The COVID was in a full swing is at the same functioning, especially on the social body, on humanity, on the interiority. It made me think of a queer expression saying démêlez-moi, literally untangle me. In other words, get me out of the trouble. The démêlement work is manifested by red threads intertwined around the end, and other side of triptych ramification. In front and I fun. I find the word porcelain. I don't think it's the same element, the same plant, but in French, paupier. The transformation can be seen the thread graduality gives two branch of paupier with a wet flower. This embodied ramification yes.
The veins in the back of the arm.
If the yes, help me please for the question for the subtlety of question.
So it was there, just to reconfirm, was there a
Yes.
question or it was 3 comments mainly?
It was mainly comments,
Okay.
but if you had input on if this was in fact a part of your process, by all means, I'd love to hear it.
So, ce qui a été observé et le commentaire qu'elle dégage, c'est en fait la 3e dimension qu'elle reconnaît dans ton travail qui est à la base très enfin 2D.
Ouais.
Et elle, à travers en fait la technique de tissage, et commence à permettre de faire réagir en fait le tissu avec les ondulations qu'on peut voir.
Ouais.
Elle voulait savoir si voilà, tu pouvais développer un peu plus sur cette 2D, 3D dans ton travail, et s'il y en a, et si jamais c'est quelque chose qui que toi tu vois ou que tu peux interpréter.
Yes, I work. Yes, I work a lot of with with 3D. 3D and 3D motion and 2D motion. And I like the embroidery revels, the 2D motions, and in the same time, there are a drawing in 3D motion. And I like the contrast between between 2D motion. And voilà. of work, temporality is not the same than other work, more more fast. Um, I I embroidered with with my hand and without a machine, and a long it's a long process, and I like this process. I like um, get me in this temporality, and I think is very interesting um, in the society. So for my process, I begin drawing in my fabric, and then after I embroider. Yes, I prefer. It's it's my technique.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any last question for Belisa before we wrap up tonight?
So,
Yes.
good night, Belisa. Your
Yes.
work is very delicate. Obviously, it's very precise.
For use I used to Guadeloupe plants euh, 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 qui viennent de la Guadeloupe
Very well.
in my drawing in my in my embroidery. No, so
Thank you.
I hope I respond of all the question. Yes.
Thank you so much, Belisa. Yes, thank you again to both of our speakers tonight, and please remember to tune in again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. on the Caribbean Linked Facebook page, or if you're in Aruba, come to Atelier 89. Thank you very much.